Hello, and welcome to Successful Not Satisfied. Here is the podcast where we interview executives, CEOs, and business owners, much like you, who are trying to figure out how to make it all work, make it go, and dealing with the daily challenges that most businesses face. Here you're going to learn about what they're doing to overcome those challenges, and hopefully you'll get some ideas to help your own company. So check it out, Successful Not Satisfied. Enjoy the episode. Hello, and welcome to Successful Not Satisfied. This is Dan Paulson, and I'm here with Jed Seifert. Jed, welcome. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm happy to have you here. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, and I'm going to let you kind of explain a little bit about your business. So Stakes Manufacturing, tell me more about what you do.
So we are a print-on-demand apparel company. We focus on big businesses and aggregators. We provide a white label solution. So essentially, we will integrate into the back end of people's websites. They take orders on their site. Those orders automatically come to us. We white label it, ship it as if we're that company, and ship it to the end consumer. So it allows our partners to avoid costly inventory and increase online revenues. So we work with a lot of the biggest names in sports, entertainment, and e-commerce. So we power all the sports leagues, a lot of the record labels, a lot of people's favorite t-shirt sites, media sites, as well as we power other print-on-demand companies as sort of their back-end manufacturer.
Now, where are you based out of?
We are based out of Eastlake, Ohio, which is just outside of Cleveland. We've got 100,000 square foot former Walmart, ironically enough. So we've repurposed the Walmart to be a apparel printing facility.
So how'd you get into this line of work? What'd you do to actually start down this road?
So I started down this road, almost 15 years ago. So I was selling enterprise software to Fortune 500 companies, and my best friend Vince, since I was 5 years old, had started a company, Music Skins, which was vinyl skins for iPods, cell phones, and laptops. And he was working to try to get licensing deals done with the entertainment business. This is back in like 2007. And he was traveling up to New York, sleeping on my couch because he was still living in DC, where we grew up. And about a year into it, he said to me, he goes, "Jed, I think I'm going to quit." I was like, "Well, why would you do that?" And he's like, "I just can't get these licensing deals done." So I, asked to hear his sales pitch. Said, "Okay, well, I think we could do a little bit better than that." And he said, "All right, we'll put your money where your mouth is." 2 weeks later, quit my job. My boss said, "You're going to quit for some fucking stickers." I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this, but that's what he said. And I said, "Yep, that's exactly what I'm going to do." So we took off down the path, and we built Music Skins. We signed licensing deals with everybody from the Beatles to Justin Bieber, SpongeBob, Muhammad Ali, South Park, pretty much anything entertainment and pop culture. And then in 2011, we got the opportunity to sell that business. And we had worked closely with a printing company called Jack Prints out of Cleveland. When we were at Music Skins, they were doing some of our marketing materials and back sheets. And after we sold, we had a non-compete in the electronic accessory space for a couple of years. And quite frankly, we kind of wanted to evolve and move out of that. We were already looking kind of for our next pivot. So we wanted to transition into apparel. And we reached out to Jack Prints and basically said, "Hey guys, you guys are great printers. We understand the print on demand business model, because everything we did at Music Skins was print on demand, because we had thousands of designs and thousands of devices. So you couldn't carry any inventory of it. And they had recently gotten their first Corny, which is kind of top of the line digital print equipment. And we pitched them, "Hey guys, we'll build this print on demand program. We'll take our knowledge of the print on demand business model. We'll take our network of partners in the sports and entertainment space, and you guys use your expertise to print." And we set off to really be the best print on demand B2B company in the world. There's a ton of print on demand companies out there. Most of them service the general public. So you could go to the Shopify marketplace, download the app, and start servicing on demand. So we don't work with Joe Public. We're only working with sort of large aggregators, like I said. So high volume clients that also have sort of a higher level of expectations for quality, turn time, as well as just account management and partnership. So we grew that business. We launched in 2012. It took off as a division of Jack Prince. It took off pretty quickly because there just wasn't anybody out there that was really doing the enterprise side of the business. And in 2019, my business partner and I got the opportunity to acquire the division from Jack Prince, which we did. We recapitalized it, rebranded it as Stakes Manufacturing, and it's been growing like a rocket ship ever since.
That's nice. That's wonderful. So I'm going to ask this because I know a lot of people, they're interested in things like licensing or getting into some of these bigger companies. What did you have to change to actually open the door for that? What was your secret sauce of getting in there?
Uh, Persistence to the point of annoyance, and and I think even more important than that is, a solution selling approach, um, as opposed to coming in and just trying to sell your product. It's really about figuring out the pain points of that business,
Mhm.
and everyone's going to be different. Some people's pain point is that they've got too much inventory. Some people's pain point are it's a record label and they got smaller bands and they want to offer, the same level of service to their smaller bands as their bigger bands, but they don't want to invest in it. Some people are just unhappy with their current provider. I mean, there's any number of reasons. And some people have initiatives just to grow their online revenue or increase product offering. So it really is just about building a true strategic partnership, with the people that you work with, and understanding their business and understanding sort of how you're going to be really crucial in their business model, and help them be successful in solving their problems, while also obviously getting the business and growing your own side of things.
Well, excuse me, I think you take a good approach to it. And that's what a lot of, again, small to medium sized businesses tend to miss out on is, they're looking at, well, what can you do for me instead of what can I do for you? And that's really where that solution selling does come in, because if you're coming in just to schlep your products, most of the times that'll turn people off. I know when I get pitched like that, I usually don't spend a lot of time with those folks because how do they know what I want? They'd never even ask. They just make an assumption. So that's an
You
excellent,
know,
excellent approach. Go ahead.
I also don't think there's longevity to that approach. I don't think there's longevity to that approach. If you just sell somebody as sort of a client vendor relationship, that's the type of thing that somebody will leave you for a nickel a unit. But
Mhm.
you become an integral part of somebody's supply chain, their business model, and really become a true strategic partnership, they'll stay with you for life. And obviously that's the goal.
Yeah. So how large a company, or well, how small a companies do you work with? So what size do you
So
go down to?
it's not necessarily about the size of the company. It's more about what their daily volume will be.
Got it.
We tend to only work with folks that are doing at least 100 units a day of on demand, and then we've got clients that are doing thousands of units a day.
Hmm, very nice. And you had mentioned that you've advanced this into an old Walmart. How many employees do you have? How many employees does it take to run this thing?
So, uh, I'll give you the longer version of that answer, because last year was quite a growth trajectory for us. COVID was an accelerator for not only our business but for our entire industry. It
Hmm.
was kind of forcing everybody to go online, um, and leverage e-commerce. So while consumer sales were down, e-commerce sales were booming. So, once COVID, we were last year, or coming out of 2019 holiday, we had about 175 employees for holiday, and then we flexed down to about 80 employees during non-peak. And so we were about 80 employees going into COVID. Then COVID hit, and the economy dropped out about mid-March. We lost about a third of our business overnight.
Mm.
And then about 3-4 weeks later, at the beginning of April, it just came back like gangbusters. And there was no turning around from there. At the end of March, I think our worst day was we only had 49 people show up to work. And that was because people either wanted to stay home to collect unemployment, they were scared of COVID, they lived with somebody who was at risk, they had some sort of interaction with somebody with symptoms, a number of reasons. We just literally couldn't get people to come to work. And then the business took off. So we hit a low point of, I think it was like 49 employees, and that was at the end of March. By the time we got to end of Q3, in preparation for the holidays, we were up to 400 employees.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so hiring 350 employees over a 6-month period, while exciting growth, tripling your business in a 6-month period, it does come with quite a bit of challenges from a human resource standpoint.
Right.
And it's not really hiring 350 people. It's more like hiring 700 people to get to your 350.
I'm all too familiar with that. I worked retail for quite a while. So how did you go about doing it? Because that's phenomenal growth. And I'm sure there were a lot of people out there, but as you pointed out, even after March, a lot of the issues you're talking about didn't go away. People were still probably wanting to collect unemployment because I don't think the additional unemployment benefits ran out till very late in the year. There's still fear of COVID. There's still fear of all these things. So how'd you go about actually finding the extra 350 people that you needed?
It was a struggle. It was, of all the things that challenged our business last year, that was number 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
Because once they gave the extra benefits for unemployment, we're a manufacturing facility. Most people are making, $12 to $16 an hour. Some of them were making the same amount sitting at home doing nothing. So that was really challenging. Also, just getting people to want to actually come out to work while everybody else is staying home was super challenging. So, we quickly staffed up internally. So we went from 1 person in our HR department to 4. We enlisted the services of quite a few temp and hiring agencies, and really just kept swinging. It was just, but I'll be frank. At one point, the interview process was, hold on, let me put this thermostat up to your floor. Wait a second, you're 98 degrees. Oh yeah, sure. Come on in. You can have a job. Come on in. So, which, we weren't able to be as picky as we usually are. But there was points where it was like, well, 50% of a person's better than no person, right?
Right.
So we didn't really have any other option. It was either throw bodies at it and just make it work, or miss out on, a once in a lifetime opportunity to really increase the trajectory of your business next overnight.
Yeah.
And, and there was a lot of drama. You bring that many new people into a facility, there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of HR. There's a lot of revolving door employees. But, we also got a lot of talent too. And that was a testament to our team and the hard work that they did interviewing, bringing in people. And just like your question on earlier about how, you break through on sales, it's the same thing. Just relentless persistence. And it also was other challenges too, right? We needed more space. So we originally, at the beginning of last year, we only had 42,000 square feet of the Walmart. By September, we were up to just around 60,000 square feet, 60-ish. And then by the end of the year, we were up to 100,000 square feet of space. So
wow.
Luckily, we also had the ability to expand within our facility to make space for not only the additional people, but we leaned into the wave. We redid our fleet of equipment and brought in millions of dollars of equipment, knowing that it was going to be necessary to support this. And I think the other thing with regard, going back to the employee side of things, is that we got out ahead of it. I think we were taking it seriously at the end of February before the economy even dropped out. So by the time everything hit the fan, we were already, when the World Health Organization and CDC and all those guys came out with sort of all the guidelines to have a safe workplace, we had already done 99% of them. Which was an undertaking in itself. Because typically you go into a factory, you got people stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
You got overlapping shifts, and all that had to change. So we literally had to rearrange our equipment, change our shift schedule so we didn't have overlapping shifts. So in case there was an outbreak on one shift, it didn't impact the whole company.
Yep.
Making everybody wear masks and take temperatures, just every little thing. And we went above and beyond because we knew that, number one, we couldn't shut down. Because if we shut down, if the business goes away, it goes away. It's not like it's going to come back as soon as, because this is print on demand, right? People need it now. So we really were very militant and how much we push these guidelines and enforce the guidelines, not only to avoid an outbreak, but we also wanted people to come into the office and feel safe.
Yep.
You know, come into the office and be like, okay, I do feel comfortable. And I think tremendous job by our team really kind of creating that environment. And, it's not just once you get them in there. I think there was an extra sensitivity level you had to have with your employees. Not only because you want to keep them and not have them leave to go collect unemployment or go work at Amazon, one of the 2 Amazon facilities within
Right.
10 miles of us. But you just had to be realistic of the fact that everybody was going through their own kind of emotional journey with COVID, and some of the things that might have, been red flags that you saw at work because they were having personal problems or things outside of work. It wasn't their fault. I mean, everybody was going through it in sort of their own ways. So I think a lot of over communication was another key thing too. We weren't sort of hiding it. It was very open. We had somebody get infected, everybody would know, right?
Right.
So transparency, I think, was a big thing as well.
Are you feeling like a prisoner in your own business? And what I mean by that is you spent all your time growing this company and you've gotten it to a point where it should be functioning on its own, but you still find yourself doing more than you should. You're getting way more in the details and you're getting stuck working on things that you have the staff and the team to actually solve for you. If you're finding that you're stuck here and that you can't find a way out, you can't seem to grow your top line sales or your bottom line revenue, please feel free to reach out. Check out danpaulsonletsgo.com. That's danpaulsonletsgo.com to learn a little bit more about me and my company and what I can do to help you out. You can always reach out to me there and schedule a meeting. There's no obligation, no cost, and I might be able to provide you with some solutions that can help you get out of your own way. Well, I commend you for jumping ahead of it because I know we had actually gone on vacation about mid-February last year. So we came and we were on a cruise ship of all things. So fortunately we were able to get off the ship, but we came back and I started to see what was happening. I was talking with clients I had one client, I said, you need to really make some sort of safety procedure or some sort of plan here because of, they weren't manufacturing, but they were auto glass. So there was a lot of, like you said, there's different shifts, there's people crossing paths, there's people working closely together. And he's like, oh, this will all blow over in a couple of weeks. Well, sure enough, 2 weeks later, they're shutting down the state. And fortunately, we had put a plan in place. So he at least had some way, and they were lucky enough to be considered an essential business. But if he hadn't had those plans in place, all it takes is one person to get sick and all of a sudden your entire staff, your entire shift is shut down. So good on you for doing that. So what were some of the issues that you did see pop up that you kind of had to overcome? Because I'm sure there's still some, well, I know there's companies trying to overcome this. I still have clients that, that we're starting to get the vaccines. The owners are wanting them to come back into work because they've been working remotely for several months. In your case, you couldn't do that. So what are the things that you helped to kind of mitigate, some of those issues as they popped up?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, we had to overhire because at any given moment you had about 20% of your staff not there, whether it's for symptoms or not to be negative, or just, hey, using it as an excuse to take a day off. It was really making sure that we were overstaffed because, again, you never knew what was going to happen. One of the biggest things that happened, which was really probably the biggest challenge I had personally over last year, was about 3 days before Black Friday, and Black Friday to Christmas is our Super Bowl. People work with us year round, but how you perform during the holiday is how they judge you, because that's when it's most critical to get those deliveries on time. And about 3-4 days before Black Friday, our VP of Ops, who literally runs the whole factory, came down with COVID. And he got the bad COVID. And what I mean by that is it wasn't, hey, take 2 weeks off and then he'll come back. Like 6 weeks later, he still wasn't like.
So he was a long hauler then.
Yeah. So I was actually planning on flying home because I don't actually live in Cleveland for Thanksgiving, which I've never missed a Thanksgiving in my life. And he came down with COVID. I was like, well, crap. I guess I'm going to be pretending to be a VP of operations for, you know, the foreseeable future. So canceled my flight home and was in the facility 7 days a week, 14 to 16 hours a day for 30 straight days to get us through that. And that was a tremendous challenge, right? Because I mean, I spend my time building strategic partnerships and kind of looking at the business from a high level. I don't really get into the weeds with production and operations nearly as much, but it was it was very trying going through it. But I think the end result was the best thing that could have ever happened because I had a deeper understanding of our business than I ever would have had I not been in the weeds, had I not, gotten us help get us through that. I think a lot of our staff thinks I'm crazy now, but that might have happened anyway. So I think that was the biggest personal challenge outside of the employee side, which we've talked about quite a bit. Supply chain was a huge challenge for us.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
You had garment shortages left and right. You had delayed freight deliveries left and right. And we run a business where we're trying to keep as little inventory of blank garments as possible because we carry 12,000 SKUs.
Right.
So, typically we would want to run with, anywhere from a week to 3 weeks worth of inventory. Well, when everything started running out, I mean, in August, you couldn't get a 2X black hoodie from any brand for like a month. So, we had to kind of change the way that we were doing things. And it was a plus and a minus. So we ended up investing heavily in inventory so that, we wouldn't be impacted by missed shipments, delays, or just completely being out. Because sure, if they're out of stock everywhere, nobody can get it. But if you can't print, then you can't make money, right? So, so we ended up having to invest crazy amounts of money in like 2 months worth of inventory because we didn't want to have this crush us during the holidays. Especially after we had leaned into the wave and brought on all these big partners and invested a ton of CapEx dollars and new equipment. So we ended up overbuying inventory. So, and that was a challenge that kind of had a ripple effect into the new year. It definitely saved our butt during the holiday because there was a moment in the holiday where we were the only people that I know of that had certain color garments and certain sizes. But you want to come out of the holiday, and typically we come out of the holiday, we're like high five, and oh yeah, every order got out in time for Christmas, we're good. Instead, it was like, all right, we crushed it, but man, there's still a lot of cotton. So so that was a challenge. We had during that sort of Black Friday to Christmas, you had shipping providers just decided they didn't want to come pick up anymore. So
wow.
UPS would just say, hey, they're supposed to come 7 days a week to our facility, and they don't show up on a Thursday, then they don't show up on a Friday, and then they send out an email to people saying, hey, we're not going to show up to a lot of people on the weekends.
Oh, wow.
And we ship tens of thousands of units a day, so we were literally running out of space to store the gaylords of shipments while we were waiting for them to actually come pick them up. Now, thankfully, we've got a lot of very large, big name partners who have a little bit more clout than we do. So we were able to leverage them to, get the shipping providers to actually come pick stuff up, even when they said they weren't going to. So that was another big challenge that we faced. And I think supply chain, employees, and losing some key employees at sort of the worst times, I think were the hardest things that we dealt with last year.
Yeah. So what have you done to keep your talent? Because as you said, it's kind of a revolving door, and I'm sure most of that's kind of your lower skilled labor. But at the same point, there's probably a lot of good people out there that, if you're running chaotic schedules, they might look at something and go, well, grass is greener over here. I'm going to take a job that's maybe a little more stable or a little less hours. So what do you do to overcome that?
Well, if you remember when I told you we had dropped down to about 49 employees, well, we knew we couldn't afford to lose any more. So, at that point, we gave some raises to a lot of hourly employees that we hadn't planned on, but was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
When we also started subsidize, we would bring in free lunch 2 times a week for all of our employees across all 3 shifts. And that was really to help differentiate, make people feel more at home. Our biggest competitors for employees are Amazon. Amazon's not giving people free lunch. Amazon's not sort of having that kind of more intimate, close relationship. While we had grown to sort of 300 to 400 people, we wanted to have a culture that still felt just like, who we were when we were, a third of that size. So I think it's really just, investing in your people, treating your people the way that you'd want to be treated. And, as we talked about earlier, being transparent about everything that's going on, over communicating, taking some time to just let people vent, because that's what a lot of people really just needed to do, was just get things off their chest about what they're going through, whether it was work or outside of work. So, a combination of all those things, and I think we also have built a very, not to sound cheesy, but we've built a very cool culture at our business, which has always been very important to us. So, super inclusive workplace. So from all racial backgrounds, religious backgrounds, people with disabilities, LGBTQ, really just a very open, accepting environment. And that's really, I think, helps to cultivate sort of that family atmosphere. And let's be frank, we spend more time in our days at work than we do at home. So anything you can do to make the workplace feel a little bit more like home,
Exactly.
just, it really pays dividends with your employees.
Yeah. I remember when I was working at a similar company to yours. I worked at Land's End, and we were actually working in Business Outfitters. So we did all the embroidered apparel. Didn't do anything like what you did, but at the same point, we were, kind of running a similar operation. And one of the ways to keep people happy was through their stomachs. So I spent a lot of time taking my restaurant experience, and I would cook for them. So every Friday was like a big cookout, and I would just prepare a menu and come in and cook for them. It was amazing how just something that little, that simple can make a difference with the people around you. So
Well, I'd say the majority of my happiness in life comes from food too. So it's not, it's not that surprising. And it's also not just the food. I mean, I do a family dinner every Sunday with my parents and my wife and kids. So it's, food has that way of kind of bringing you together. And then it's not just the eating, but then instead of everybody leaving your facility to go eat, everybody's eating together. So it's not just camaraderie, management and ownership. It's camaraderie with your fellow employees and kind of bonding.
Yeah. No, that's excellent.
I'm going to just turn this light on here. Probably.
Getting a little dark over there?
Yeah. Lost the natural lighting.
So, Jed, what's the future look like for your company? Where are you taking it from here?
Space.
Space? You talked to Elon Musk?
Yeah. No, I mean, we're just continuing to grow at such a rapid clip. The industry that we're in is really in its infant stages. The decorated apparel industry, the digital side of it, which is our side, is only 1% of it right now. So while our business is booming, we've only hit the tip of the iceberg, and it's just going to continue to boom. And it's not just us. Really, all the players in our industry that can perform are growing, and there's more demand than there is supply. So really, it's just about continuing to grow responsibly, but also quickly. We're going to continue to evolve with, as the print technology evolves, we're going to evolve with that. We really try to stay on the forefront of R&D and what's out there next. And also not just evolve from an equipment standpoint, but with new equipment and with that evolution allows you to do more different substrates, get into other materials, poly and other stuff like that. But really our goal is to be the biggest, best B2B print on demand company um, on the planet. I mean, really, that's the goal. We have some pretty ambitious goals, and we think that they're realistic. And I think that it's just continuing to grow at such a rapid clip that it's almost we're having to even govern the growth to make sure that because I think it's important for business owners to understand that growing too fast will put you out of business just as fast as
No business at all.
no business at all. So it's really trying to thread that needle at all times of maximizing what you can do and testing yourself, but at the same time not out kicking your coverage. And so I think we're going to continue growing, continue partnering with big names and evolving the business. And the other thing too is that even with our current partners and folks that we work with, most of them have only really started adopting sort of the print on demand model. Some of them, it's like a little shiny toy that they play with on the side. Some of them have made it an integral part of their business model, but very few, even with COVID kind of making everybody realize it, very few people have really done the math to understand that, sure, it's more expensive to buy 1 unit print on demand than it is to buy 1 unit wholesale screen print. But if you start doing the math on how much you're investing in inventory, all the stuff you didn't sell through, the stuff that you're never going to sell through, the overproduction, people got creamed. I mean, we've got a clothing brand too that, we had spring line was supposed to go in Zoomies last year. Well, that borders obviously got canceled because they weren't open. And then are they going to take it this spring? So I think, the whole industry is moving towards quick turn, lower order volumes, and it's not just COVID, but we also saw a lot of challenges with, bringing stuff in from Asia.
Definitely.
Not just from COVID, but from new taxes and tariffs and all of that stuff. So I think it's really kind of exposed the challenges of offshore manufacturing, and it's really made people go, okay, we have to focus more. But I think that evolution is just starting. And I think the technology keeps advancing and you get faster machines, cheaper ink, all those good things, the gap between your screen print price and your digital price just continues to shrink. And as it gets smaller and smaller, then all of a sudden you're opening up a whole nother world of opportunity that we're not even touching on right now.
Yeah.
So, I really think that we're just going to keep growing exponentially year over year. And I think we're going to end up expanding beyond our current facility and open some additional facilities geolocated in other places in the country. And beyond that, I mean, I don't know. I try to really look 2 to 3 years in advance.
Sure.
It's really difficult to look any further than that with any sort of realistic.
Sometimes 6 months can be difficult to look forward.
Exactly.
So, do you see any businesses reshoring? You mentioned a lot of our garments come from Asia. They have for decades now. Do you see potentially more garments being put together here in the U.S. just due to what happened overseas?
Yes and no. I mean, I think the transition from Asia has already been happening over the last decade. There's a lot more stuff that's manufactured in Central America, the Caribbean, Mexico, than there was before. It's actually, there's not as huge of a cost benefit from ordering from China or Bangladesh or any of those folks. So, I think that you're going to find some more people that are going to do shirts domestically, but the price point is always going to be a challenge. Right. But I think that you're going to see more and more garments are going to come from places that are closer, Mexico and, like I said, Central America. But I think the actual decoration of it, yes, I think there's a huge push for the decoration to happen domestically as opposed to overseas, because it just allows you to be so much more nimble.
That's great. Well, as we're wrapping up here, Jed, I usually ask my guests if there's one thing you could share with the audience, what's the most important thing that a business owner should focus on? And what would you tell them?
Um, I would tell them that I think the most important thing about to be a business owner is grit. I don't think it's the smartest guy in the room. I don't think it's the best product in the room. I don't think it's the best service. I always like to compare being an entrepreneur to Rocky in a title fight. You literally just get your ass kicked every round and get knocked down. But if you keep getting up, by the time you get to that end of that fight, you'll be a champion. But there is not a day that goes by that, something doesn't go wrong. So it's really just never quitting and never stopping. One of my mentors said, you just don't die. As long as you don't die and you survive, you'll be okay. I think that's a little bit more than I would go, but it's really, again, grit and just sort of the relentless pursuit of your dream and what you're doing. And, anything that can go wrong will go wrong, but the vast majority of it, you can figure it out. If you catch your breath, take a second, realize the sky isn't falling, and, take a solution-oriented approach instead of a reaction-oriented approach.
Yep. No, that's great advice. And it's ironic that you say that, because I did have a client that would always tell me, as long as there's no dead bodies on the floor, today was a success. So it's not too far off from what you said, so I can completely relate to it. But Jed, thanks again for taking the time with me. I really appreciate your conversation, appreciate learning more about your business and what you have going on. And I'm sure the listeners are going to appreciate taking away some good gold nuggets of information that you've supplied them with. So thanks again. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate being a guest.
All right. Take care. Thanks again for checking out Successful Not Satisfied. Hopefully there's something you learned and you're able to take away and use in your own company. Check out our next episode in the coming weeks. And also, I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, KGI Design Group. They have been instrumental in helping put these podcasts and many other things together for us. They do a lot of my graphics and my branding, and if you need help with that, I urge you to contact them. KGIDesignGroup.com. Thanks again.